I will now call to order the October 19, 2023 Clackamas County Board of Commissioners business meeting. Gary Schmidt, Administrator, can you take the roll, please?
Yes, Chair Smith, thank you. First, our staff support today, Clerk to the Board, Tony Marinick, County Counsel, Stephen Madcore. Commissioner West is out of the office today. Roll call, Commissioner Savas.
Present.
Commissioner Schrader.
Present.
Commissioner Shull.
Here.
Chair Smith.
Here. All rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Good morning, everyone. We are holding this meeting in person and virtually. If you've joined us via Zoom for this meeting and are interested in providing public comment, we will prompt you regarding how to do that when the time is right. General public comment will be taken at the usual allotted time. I would like to remind all participants, including staff, all elected officials, and members of the public that Robert's Rules of Order will be used in this business meeting. We welcome your opinions and look forward to your polite participation. I will now recess as the Board of County Commissioners and convene as a Housing Authority of Clackamas County Board of Commissioners. Gary.
Next is the Housing Authority of Clackamas County consent agenda. Housing Commissioner Ann Leinster is not able to join today, so she will not be here. Tony, would you please read the Housing Authority consent agenda?
Item 1, approval of an infrastructure and additional shared cost agreement with Local Workforce Development Board for the WorkSource Clackamas One Stop. Agreement value is $275.39 for 1 year. Funding through the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development, Resident Opportunity and Self-Sufficiency Grant Funds. No county general funds are involved. Item 2, approval of Amendment 4, increasing funding and updating program language of an intergovernmental agreement with Metro for the Affordable Housing Bond Program. Amendment value is $1,190,306 for 3 years. Agreement value is increased to $120,534,367 for 10 years. Funding is through Metro Affordable Housing Bond Funds. No county general funds are involved. Item 3, approval of a construction contract with North Pacific Construction and Remodeling Incorporated for the Drew Street project. Contract value is $216,000 for 120 days. Funding through the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development Capital Grant Funds. No county general funds are involved. Item 4, approval to apply for a grant for the Hillside Park redevelopment project. Anticipated grant value is $1 million. Funding is through the Oregon Department of Housing and Community Services. No county general funds are involved. Item 5, approval of a contract with Mental Health and Addiction Association of Oregon for peer support services. Contract value is $108,809.04 for 1 year. Funding is through Metro Supportive Housing Services Measure Funds. No county general funds are involved. Madam Chair, that concludes the list.
Thank you, Tony. Does any commissioner wish to remove anything off the Housing Authority consent agenda? Seeing none, I will entertain a motion.
I move for approval of the Housing Authority's consent agenda.
Second.
Commissioner Shull has moved for approval of the Housing Authority consent agenda, and Commissioner Schrader has seconded the motion. Any further discussion? Seeing none, Tony, would you please take the poll?
Commissioner Savas.
Aye.
Commissioner Schrader.
Aye.
Commissioner Shull.
Aye.
Chair Smith.
Aye. Motion passes 4-0. I will now adjourn as a Housing Authority Board and reconvene as a Board of County Commissioners. Gary, what's next?
Next is a presentation on earthquake preparedness and the Clackamas County Shakeout Drill. Today is a State of Oregon drill for earthquake preparedness, and to give you a quick presentation on this is Daniel Neibauer, Director of Disaster Management, and Jamie Poole, Disaster Management Program Manager. Go ahead, please.
Welcome.
Good morning, Chair, Commissioners, Administrator Schmidt. Today is a great shakeout. As you're familiar with, for the past several years, we've been doing this, and Jamie has a presentation on earthquake safety and what the great shakeout is.
All right, Jamie, welcome.
Good morning. I'm Jamie Poole with Disaster Management. So today at 10:19, all county employees are going to participate in the Great Shakeout Drill. This is a large international drill that happens every October. Within the Oregon Revised Statute, we are required as a state and local government or a local government to participate in an annual drop, cover, hold on drill. So this meets that requirement. We also encourage residents and businesses across our county to participate in this drill as well by taking the action of drop, cover, hold on at 10:19 this morning. Drop, cover, hold on is the corrective protective action to take when the earth starts shaking during an earthquake. And we will watch a video after my presentation that will demonstrate how to best do this. There are over 1,000 earthquakes in Washington and Oregon every year, with at least 24 that are large enough to feel. But within Clackamas County, I just want to point out the two most recent large crustal earthquakes in 1993. The Scotts Mills was a magnitude 5.6, and the Klamath Falls, not in Clackamas County, was a 5.9 magnitude. And we are all aware that the Cascadia subduction zone is off the coast of Oregon and could cause a catastrophic earthquake with ramifications here in Clackamas County that we all want to be prepared for. And we recommend to prepare for those that everyone, our employees, as well as our community, have disaster supplies. And we recommend at home having a kit that could sustain you for 2 weeks, up to 2 weeks. We also recommend that you have a kit that is at home to take with you, so a go kit. So if you do have to leave, you have some supplies that you can take with you. And if you work away from home, having a kit in your office as well, and things like shoes in your car that if you wear high heels to work that you can actually traverse, put tennis shoes on if you're somewhere where the earthquake strikes. In Oregon, we have newer technology called Shake Alert, which is an earthquake early warning system. The Oregon Hazards Lab has, actually by 2024, we'll have 212 seismic stations across Oregon to detect earthquakes. And there's only 12 more that need to be deployed. So we're almost there. By 2024, all of those will be in place. And that system detects earthquakes early, and what it does is sends an alert out ahead of the wave. So folks could receive a wireless emergency alert, or if you download the MyShake or Quake Alert USA apps, you would potentially get seconds to minutes of warning for an earthquake. The seismic detection will detect it and then send that alert out ahead of it. So if you're close to the epicenter of the earthquake, you would maybe not get enough warning, but if you're further away, by the time that the shaking gets to you, you would have already gotten that warning. There's more information about that at shakealert.org. We also recommend folks visit publicalerts.org to sign up for public alerts from the county, as well as get information about how to prepare, or ready.gov is another resource for folks for how to prepare. And with that, I will turn it over to Tony to play the video.
Drop, cover, and hold on is the most appropriate way to protect yourself in the event of an earthquake. When the shaking begins, drop to your hands and knees. This position protects you from falling and allows you to move if necessary. Cover your head, neck, and entire body if possible under a sturdy table or desk. Hold on to your shelter until the shaking stops. Be prepared to move with your shelter if the shaking shifts it around. If no table or desk is nearby, go to an interior wall or low-lying furniture and cover your head and neck. If driving, coast to the side of the road, stop, and set the parking brake. Avoid bridges. If you have a wheelchair or have mobility impairments, set the wheel locks and lean forward. If in bed, stay put, hold onto the bed, and protect your head. Practice drop, cover, and hold on. When the shaking starts, you don't want to think about what to do. You want to know what to do. It could save your life.
All right, thank you. Are there any questions?
Thank you very much. That was very explanatory of what we're supposed to do. Commissioners, do we have questions or comments on this? No?
I've got one.
Yeah, Commissioner Shaw?
Yes, thank you for that. It's very informative. What are the children in Clackamas County doing this morning on the Great Shakeout?
Most schools do participate in the Great Shakeout, and so they will be getting under desks or taking the protective measures as directed by their school and teachers.
Okay, good, thank you.
I remember doing that in school. It was a very long time ago, obviously, but for another reason. It wasn't for earthquakes. Maybe you remember that too. Well, thank you very much for coming forward and making this informative presentation today.
Yes,
Thank
thank
you.
you.
Gary, what's next?
Thank you. So quickly, Commissioners, at 10:19 a.m., you will hear an announcement on the loudspeaker in this room, but we'll progress through the meeting as is. We're not going to go under the desks or tables for your purposes. The rest of the county staff will be doing that. Next, reading and adoption of a previously approved land use ordinance, adoption of a previously approved comprehensive plan and zoning and development ordinance, amendments ZDO-286, local park master plan adoption framework. No fiscal impact, no county general funds are involved. Stephen Madcourt, County Council, will present.
Thank you, Gary. Good morning, Commissioners. This item this morning is to adopt an ordinance approving ZDO 286. It's a package of legislative amendments to the Clackamas County Comprehensive Plan and Zoning and Development Ordinance that's intended to provide a process for considering the adoption of local park master plans in the EFU, timber, and ag forest zones to ensure consistency with Oregon administrative rules for local public parks, and to make minor housekeeping edits. The Planning Commission held a public hearing on the proposals on September 11th, 2023, and voted 6-2 to recommend that the board approve as proposed and recommended by staff. This board then held a public hearing on September 27th. At that hearing, the board voted unanimously 4-0 to approve the proposal as recommended by staff and the Planning Commission. The board then directed staff to draft an ordinance and findings reflecting that decision. The ordinance before you today will approve ZDO 286 as recommended by staff and the Planning Commission. Findings supporting the decision are attached as an exhibit to this ordinance. It is staff's recommendation that you adopt the ordinance as presented, and Jennifer Hughes from Planning, or I would be happy to answer any questions that the board has. This is the Lusher Farms proposal that you had before you a couple weeks ago.
Right.
Exactly.
Commissioners, do we have any questions for Stephen Madcourt on this? Go ahead, Mark.
I was going to say, no, we had a thorough briefing on this comprehensive plan amendment, and very comfortable with this change.
Then would you like to make a motion?
Certainly. I move we read ZDO 286 by title only.
Second.
Commissioner Scholl has moved, we read ZDO-286 by title only, and Commissioner Schrader has seconded the motion. Any further discussion?
Chair, I
Yes.
was absent for that meeting, so I was not present for the hearing, so I will be abstaining.
All right. Any other comments, seeing this time? Tony, please take the poll.
Commissioner Savas.
Abstain.
Commissioner Schrader.
Aye.
Commissioner Scholl.
Aye.
Chair Smith.
Aye, motion passes 301. Thank you very much. Tony, would you please read ZDO by title only?
Ordinance number ZDO-286, an ordinance amending chapters 4 and 9 of the Clackamas County Comprehensive Plan, amending sections 401, 406, and 407 of the Clackamas County Zoning and Development Ordinance, and adding a new section 714 to the Clackamas County Zoning and Development Ordinance.
Thank you. I will now entertain a motion to approve the ordinance.
I move to adopt ZDO 286, an ordinance amending chapters 4 and 9 of the Clackamas County Comprehensive Plan, amending sections 401, 406, and 407 of the Clackamas County Zoning and Development Ordinance, and adding a new section 714 to the Clackamas County Zoning and Development Ordinance as previously approved at the September 27th, 2023 land use hearing.
Second.
Thank you. Commissioner Scholl has moved, we adopt ZDO-286, an ordinance amending chapters 4 and 9 of the Clackamas County Comprehensive Plan, amending sections 401, 406, 407 of the Clackamas County Zoning and Development Ordinance, and adding a new section, 714, to the Clackamas County Zoning and Development Ordinance as previously approved at the September 27, 2023 land use meeting, and Commissioner Schrader has seconded the motion. Any further discussion? Seeing none. Tony, would you please take the poll?
Commissioner Savas.
Abstain.
Commissioner Schrader.
Aye.
Commissioner Scholl.
Aye.
Chair Smith.
Aye. Motion passes 301. Thank you very much. Gary, what's next?
Next is a board discussion item, a board letter to Metro regarding supportive housing services funds. The draft letter is posted online. Stephen Madcore, County Council, will present.
Thank you again, Gary. Commissioners, later on your agenda this morning in the consent agenda, you have item under H3S number 7. That is the award of a grant agreement to the Homeless Solutions Coalition of Clackamas County. That's approximately a $10 million grant. It's coming out of Supportive Housing Services tax funds. And we have a letter here that staff drafted on the board's behalf. It would be sent to Metro President Peterson and Metro councilors, letting them know of the project, letting them know that we are using the supportive housing dollars for that project, and thanking them for their cooperation in this undertaking. And this letter would be going out today because it's going to be on your agenda for later today, and it's just a kind outreach to the folks at Metro. And to answer any questions, we have Adam Brown from H3S or myself are happy to answer any questions the board might have.
Commissioner Savas.
I appreciate, the draft, and we discussed this earlier a couple days ago.
This is a great shakeout. One of the largest earthquake drills ever. Practice now so you can protect yourself during a real earthquake. This is an earthquake drill. Right now, drop, cover, and hold on. Drop to the floor now. During a large earthquake, the ground might jerk strongly and knock you down. Take cover under something sturdy to protect yourself from objects that can be thrown across the room. Hold on to your shelter until the shaking stops. If you can't get under something, stay low and protect your head and neck with your arms. Now look around. What object might fall or be thrown at you that you should secure in place before a real earthquake? This drill is over. Visit shakeout.org for simple steps to help you survive and recover from a major earthquake. Thank you for taking part in the Great Shakeout.
Thank you very much. Commissioner Savas, would you like to continue?
Well, I'll restart. So I just want to I appreciate the draft. When we discussed this a couple days ago in executive session, my concern was it's not explicitly clear that monies for capital are an allowed use under either the local implementation plan or the work plan. And since that time, there's also been some monies of supported housing services set aside, not administrative, but set aside about 5%. So I wanted to convey two questions really to Metro to get really something in writing that says this is an allowed use. Number one that says that capital projects is or is not an allowed use of supportive housing services for supportive housing service delivery. And secondly, which funds do they feel are most appropriate to be used? The actual, funds that we receive on a monthly basis, for the majority of the funding or the 5% set aside. I think those are two things that I would like to have their concurrence or direction with. This is simply a notification, and I don't want to play Judge Judy here, but I know if there was an agreement and there was an argument, Judge Judy was, oh, show it to me in writing. And on that premise, I don't see where it's explicitly written.
Didn't we get an email yesterday from Metro saying, Stephen, and all the commissioners got an email?
I forwarded you an email from a Metro attorney that came
And
to
it
our
said-
office.
What did it say?
I'd have to resort to it, but there's no doubt that there's legal uncertainty about whether capital expenditures are appropriate under the supportive housing services. We have opined that the county has a strong, good faith argument to say that these types of expenditures are appropriate and proper to address the houselessness need, which is what the supportive housing tax was implemented to address. And I don't think you can ask Metro for it, but you certainly can't force their legal department to give us a legal memo that supports our position. We're just telling them how we're going to use it. If they have objection, it will be expressed to us, I'm quite sure.
Adam, do you have that email available?
I do, Chair Smith.
Would you like to just read it into the record?
Yeah, good morning. Adam Brown,
morning.
Deputy Director, Clackamas County Health, Housing, and Human Services. So we sent Metro an email, staff did yesterday, apprising them of our intent to make this award. And then Metro's Housing Director, Patricia Rojas, replied yesterday afternoon by email saying she appreciated us reaching out to obtain guidance on our planned investment in a resource center, and that we had described the services that will be delivered there in our communication to them, and that the services that will be provided there are consistent with, they are supportive housing services, the core sort of investments that we can make using measure funding. And she said that Metro is in the process of developing further guidance for capital purchases, which they will send us and our Tri-County partners very soon. But in the meantime, please ensure that this investment is consistent with your commitments in the local implementation plan, the Metro SHS work plan, and terms in the SHS IGA. And it is. So our local implementation plan said that investments in things like system access and system support and coordination are critical to achieving our long-term supportive housing services goals. So the investment's consistent with our work plan, or our LIP. Metro's work plan says that capital investments that enable the jurisdictions to achieve their SHS goals and deliver supportive housing services are allowable. And the IGA with Metro, there's only one place where it speaks to capital investments, and that's in the uses and misuses section of the IGA. And it gives an example of a misuse, and it says that a misuse of SHS funds is an investment in a public improvement like roads that isn't in the furtherance of delivering supportive housing services. So while it doesn't say it's an allowable use, it sort of infers that if a misuse is an investment that isn't in the furtherance of SHS, that you can use SHS funds for a public improvement that is intended to help us achieve our goals. So I think those three things together, our LIP, the Metro Work Plan, and the IGA, we feel like we're on solid footing, but there is ambiguity, and we're trying to be good partners and establish clear boundaries on these things, which is why we've put this question to Metro.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Savas.
Yeah, well, I did read the email, and I responded to Mr. Madcore saying it's still not clear. Matter of fact, it actually, in their responses and the chain, the thread here, it actually has more questions than answers, frankly. I'm counting more question marks than I'm seeing in any kind of a statement that's an affirmation. So when it says Metro is working on creating future guidance to the counties regarding these funds, these kinds of SHS fund uses, and we've been meeting internally on a regular basis regarding this issue, I say this with some, my apprehension is this. When we sat here as a board, well, some of us weren't here back when we approved the LIP, we were told, hey, and I was making this argument for the work plan, I need better definition, it's too vague. And, well, that'll come in the work plan, that'll come in the work plan. And I said, well, when the work plan comes, how long will that take? You know, that was at the time we were thinking that we were going to get $24 million on July 1st of 2021, I believe was the year. And of course that didn't happen. But we'll have this work plan settled here about 30 days. We'll have it done before July 1st. Well, then it went from August into September, and then October. I mean, it just went on. And it wasn't until February, I believe, of the following year. So it was like 6, 7, 8, 9 months of our staff time, their staff time, who were working on getting this agreement, as opposed to focusing on getting the dollars and the people hired to build the machine. We lost all that time. So I just have this a little bit apprehension that as detail specific and the experiences, which I can't repeat here, and there's not enough time, it's not really, don't have that recollection, but how it was so detailed and disagreements on that my concern is, when I read something like this, it's a red flag that all those details may or may not really find that we're in compliance with those dollars. So these are public tax dollars that have a high profile, that have a huge interest in making sure we deliver the services. I think it's incumbent upon both Metro and ourselves to at least have some kind of affirmation that they simply can send a letter back to us by Monday saying, you know, this is an allowed use, we'll continue to work on the details. Just give us something that affirms that. That's all I'm seeking here today. I don't want to go through another 9 months or 6 months of back and forth over the details. But when I see something like that, we're going to work on that. It tells me that it will be pretty well detail oriented. And I don't blame the profession of legal counsels and lawyers to do that. I mean, it's legitimate, and so is my request.
Any further comments? Commissioner Schrader?
Yeah, I just want to say something here. I know there's ambiguity, but I think, at least my impression is, that's for the lawyers to figure out. I think this is an appropriate use for the money, and I would go to the mat for that in a very big way. And to me, this is just another example of how Metro doesn't really know what they're up to some days, because this should be perfectly clear to them. But I am willing to move ahead with this now and make a motion to move ahead to this letter for the supportive housing serving. So I move for approval of the board letter to the Metro regarding supportive housing services funds.
Commissioner Scholl, you have your light on, but there was a motion.
Yeah, I'll second the
Okay, Commissioner
motion.
Scholl, please comment.
Yes, I wanted to say that we here at Clackamas County have been striving to be trailblazers on new ideas and new solutions for the homelessness issue. This letter, I think, is just illuminating another idea that we have for a potential solution or a step forward in dealing with the homelessness issue. I understand that, like Commissioner Savas has said, there's a potential for more questions to come out of this, but this letter does begin a process of thought, and I hope that once Metro receives this, that this letter will avoid future friction with Metro on this the utilization of SHS dollars. So I approve the letter.
Thank you. I'm the county's representative on the Tri-County Planning Body, and on the second meeting happens with, what's the name of that? The Monday meeting and then the Wednesday meeting. Supported housing services, yes. Planning body as well. And it is inferred that in order to provide these services, we need a place to give the services. We cannot give them on the street or in a park, or we actually need a sticks and bricks location to provide these very necessary services in order to curb homelessness, make it rare and non-reoccurring, as you and Vahid have always said. So I am okay with going forward on this. However, Commissioner Savas, I do appreciate your comments that you brought forward today, as well as our attorney. I think Commissioner Schrader is right. This is something for the attorneys to do. I think the intent of the legislation is that, well, yeah, of course you're going to need a place to provide services, because how else are you going to provide services? So I'm willing to work on this further to get more clarification from Metro. I will say, Metro has been pushing the counties to put out the money, to get, there's more money coming in. We have another $7.5 million for the month of September, as you saw in your email today. Get the services out the door, get the services. Well, how do we do that? And where? And we need places to do that. For instance, I said, hey, can I have a budget? And Paul, you allude to the 5%, I think. Yeah. We discussed that on Wednesday of this week, because Metro wants to spend 3 FTEs, totally loaded positions, to offer up services to the counties, which could be helpful and could be redundant. And I said, where's the budget? Where's the money going? And I've been on this committee over a year, and I have not seen Metro's budget. Yes, we have our county budgets on this. You guys are fine. But and so that's my quest in trying to keep Metro accountable as well. I do think Metro is kind of late to the party on some of this questions that have come up, but I feel comfortable enough as well to go ahead and support this letter today. Commissioner Savas.
I'll just close with this. I just want to make it perfectly clear that I'm very supportive of the project that Homeless Solutions Coalition is endeavoring. So I'm grateful for their work they're doing and bringing this project to this point. I don't want to delay that whatsoever, but I feel it's incumbent upon, as a small request, just to add those 2 questions in there. And again, it's public taxpayer dollars. I'm concerned about a clawback or a technicality, and then we're going to be on the hook for that. And so I understand the board's not interested in that, but I just want to just state, with public dollars at risk here, I just think it's incumbent upon that. So I'll be voting no on the letter.
Okay. Thank you for your opinion on that. Tony, we have a motion on the table.
Commissioner Savas.
No.
Commissioner Schull.
Yes.
Commissioner Schrader.
Aye.
Chair Smith.
Aye. Motion passes 3-1. Thank you very much. Gary, what's next?
Next is the consent agenda. Tony, would you please read the consent agenda?
Elected officials, item 1, approval of previous business meeting minutes for the Board of County Commissioners. Item 2, approval of an intergovernmental agreement with the Oregon Department of Transportation for the Motor Carrier Safety Assistance Program. Agreement value is $40,000 for 1 year. Funding is through Oregon Department of Transportation and $2,000 in budgeted county general fund for the Clackamas County Sheriff's Office. Item 3, approval of an intergovernmental agreement with the Oregon Department of Transportation for the Safety Belt Enforcement Project. Agreement value is $12,500 for 1 year. Funding is through the Oregon Department of Transportation and $2,500 in budgeted county general funds for the Clackamas County Sheriff's Office. Transportation and Development, item 1, approval of a funding agreement with Malala River Watch for the Woodcock Creek at Grimm Road Bridge Replacement Project. Total value of agreement, $348,671. Funding is through the Oregon Watershed Enhancement Board. No county general funds are involved. Item 2, approval of an infrastructure and additional shared cost agreement with the Local Workforce Development Board for the WorkSource Clackamas One Stop. No fiscal impact. No county general funds are involved. Health, Housing, Human Services, item 1, approval of an intergovernmental agreement with Multnomah County for STD and HIV clinic services to eligible Clackamas County residents. Agreement value is $115,000 for 1 year. Funding is through the Oregon Health Authority. No county general funds are involved. Item 2, approval of a subrecipient agreement with the City of Oregon City on behalf of its Pioneer Community Center for services to older adults. Agreement value is $219,131 for 1 year. Funding is through the Federal Older Americans Act, TriMet, Energy Assistance Fund, and federal and state transportation funds for older and disabled residents. No county general funds are involved. Item 3, approval of a grant agreement from the University with the University of Oregon for Community Dispute Resolution Program. Total grant value $156,644 for 2 years. Funding is through the University of Oregon. No county general funds are involved. Item 4, approval of an amendment to an intergovernmental grant agreement with the Oregon Department of Human Services for the Senior Health Insurance Benefits Assistance Medicare Improvements for Patients and Providers Act program. Amendment value is $8,500 for 1 year. Agreement value is increased to $16,901 for 2 years. Funding through the Oregon Department of Health and Human Services. No county general funds are involved. Item 5, approval of an intergovernmental agreement with the State of Oregon for the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Training and Employment. Agreement value is $162,935.44 for 1 year, with a match of $162,935.44. Funding is through the Oregon Department of Human Services, with match funding through Metro Supportive Housing Services, Measure Funds, and $42,000 in budgeted county general funds. Item 6, approval of a board order authorizing issuance of a purchase order for temporary employee services with Robert Half International Incorporated for staffing coordinated housing access and rental assistance programs. Purchase order value is $550,190 for 6 months. Funding is through Metro Supportive Housing Services Measure Funds. No county general funds are involved. Item 7, approval of a board order delegated limited signing authority to the chair and/or the county administrator to execute all documents reasonably necessary to complete the execution of a grant agreement with the Homeless Solutions Coalition of Clackamas County for $10 million for the acquisition and construction of Supportive Services Resource Center and recordation of the restrictive covenant. Funding is through Metro Supportive Housing Services Measure Funds. No county general funds are involved. Madam Chair, that concludes the list.
Thank you very much, Tony. Does any commissioner wish to remove any items from this consent agenda?
Chair, only to cite my earlier concerns with regard to item C7, which is the $10 million for the acquisition. I'll be supporting the consent agenda in general. I just wanted to cite my concerns with the lack of clarity and authorization for the expenditure of those dollars, for the supportive housing services dollars.
Thank you very much. I'll entertain a motion.
I move for approval of the consent agenda.
Second.
Commissioner Schull has moved for approval of the consent agenda, and Commissioner Schrader has seconded the motion. Tony, would you please call the poll?
Commissioner Savas.
Aye.
Commissioner Schrader.
Aye.
Commissioner Schull.
Aye.
Chair Smith.
Aye, motion passes 4-0. Thank you very much. Up next is public communication. This portion of the agenda shall be limited to items of county business which are properly the object of board consideration and should be nonpartisan in nature, as the BCC is a nonpartisan governing body under Oregon Revised Statutes and County Code. Testimony is limited to 3 minutes. Comments shall be respectful and courteous to all. As a reminder, you can email submissions for public communication at bcc@clackamas.us, and these will be accepted as part of the public record. I will now open the meeting for public testimony and take in-person testimony first. I see no one in this meeting room who would like to testify. Is that correct? No in person? Thank you. Tony, is there anyone on Zoom who would like to comment today?
Not at this time, Madam Chair.
Okay. I will now close the public communication portion of this meeting, and I'll go, Gary, what's next?
Next is County Administrator Update. That's me. I like to use my time to recognize our county staff and our programs. Today, I want to honor and recognize our Children, Family, and Community Connections Division of the Health, Housing, and Human Services Department because they recently drew attention from the United States Department of Justice, and in a good way. And that is the Children, Family, and Community Connections Division runs a program called Second Chance Clackamas Employment Services. This is for individuals who are currently incarcerated and are about to be released, and persons with substance abuse disorders. And what our staff does is help them prepare for job searches so they can find jobs as soon as they are ready. The U.S. Department of Justice recognized the county's Second Chance Clackamas Employment Program as a national best practice across the entire United States for these reasons: that the Clackamas Employment Services Program works collaboratively with the Parole and Probation Division of the Sheriff's Office, that the county's Transition Center provides continued services to released individuals, that the existence of a variety of essential wraparound services being offered to clients is excellent, and the ongoing partnerships with local community-based organizations. In many parts of the United States, there is not this level of support between employment programs offered by counties and the local public safety agency. That is not the case here in Clackamas County, which should be no surprise to you commissioners and our public. So I do want to thank all the staff in the Children, Family, and Community Connections Division and our Parole and Probation Division of the Sheriff's Office who are working together to make Clackamas County a national leader in this employment search area. That is my update for today. Thank you, commissioners.
Great, thank you very much. Up next is Commissioner Communication. Up first, Commissioner Shull.
Yes, thank you, and good morning, Clackamas County. I'd like to talk to you first about housing. We've talked about this so many times over the last few years. I see our housing problem as going back to Senate Bill 100 in 1974, which formed the urban growth boundaries around our cities, which has now, 50 years later, created a situation that has made housing very unaffordable. And Oregon is now probably the most expensive state in which to buy a house, and certainly when we look at our average income, it is the most expensive state in the union. So Senate Bill 100 is the problem. The Band-Aid that we have used for decades to alleviate the growing pressure from Senate Bill 100 are measures like the supportive housing services metro measure that has yielded some $350 million just out of Metro in the last 2 years. And also, we have the Metro Housing Bond, we have the federal dollars for supportive housing. These Band-Aids amount to hundreds of millions of dollars in the greater Portland area, 3 counties, each year. And we're not getting closer to a situation where our young families, our kids, are being able to afford a home. And so I ask cities, planning commissions, hamlets, CPOs, citizen groups to consider this and talk to your state reps and see about the possibility of getting something on the ballot in front of the legislature in maybe not 2024, but in 2025. We need change. I'm tired of seeing us spinning our wheels on housing. On fire season, again, I commend the people of Clackamas County for their safety this year. We made it through the fire season with really only a few fires and only one that was really relatively bad. But now the Oregon Department of Forestry, the BLM, and Mount Hood Natural Forest, they're shifting gears to wildfire prevention, and I ask everybody to take some time this winter and look at their property, their home, and go to Clackamas Community Wildfire Protection Plan at our clackamas.us disaster management website, and make sure that you're looking at an improved fire safety situation for your property come next summer. Thank you. On history, I'm concerned about our K through 12 schools and about one subject in particular, and that's history. It's very critical that our kids are learning about history. We have a tendency in this day and age to have many people have a deconstructionist attitude about history. And I'd like to remind you of what Aristotle once wrote, and that is, he said, this alone, history, is denied even to God to make what has been not to what has been. In other words, he believed that you cannot change history. And so I ask parents to look at your child's curriculum in K through 12 schools, and if you are not happy with the curriculum and history in our schools, please go to that next parent-teacher conference and your next school board. On tolling, we've talked about this till we're blue in the face, but I still meet with people who are not really aware of the extent of the potential threat for tolling and the impact on your wallet and your small business bottom line. Our representative, Lori DeReamer, has been working in Washington, D.C. to effect the action with the Department of Transportation. Hopefully she can make some changes to effect the potential for ODOT to toll our freeways. But even with that, I still believe that it is imperative that every citizen in the state, and in particular here in Clackamas County, be involved and go to votebeforetolls.org, download the IP4 petition, take it to your family, your neighbors, get it signed. Now let's fight back against bureaucrats who want to have or take or use unprecedented, unelected power to affect your wallet. On the 7 November election, our county clerk has been working to get out the voter pamphlets that list all the measures, city councilors, city measures, school districts, fire districts. Please, let's make this 7 November special election an effective one by having people turn out and return those ballots. On the Measure 110, probably the most talked about measure in years that decriminalized killer drugs, the county now has on its website a survey that we're asking every citizen in the county to take on your opinion on what should happen to Measure 110, be it modified or repealed. And please go to www.surveymonkey.com, Measure 110 survey, and take that survey as soon as you can. And with that, I thank you all for your time.
Thank you, Commissioner Scholl. Commissioner Schrader, you're up next.
Yeah, I'd like to talk a little bit about education since Commissioner Scholl actually brought up that topic, largely because the county's nexus to education oftentimes revolves about workforce training, our Clackamas Education Service District, CTEC Youth Services, dislocated worker information, getting people back on the job. We work with Children, Family, and Community Connections, Ant Farm Services, Oregon Manufacturing Extension Partnership. All of those things are ways to get our youth interested in what is available to them so they can leave high school, go on to a trade, or if they go on to college, really help them decide what they want to do in life and give them adequate training. And so this morning I had an opportunity. I am the liaison of the Clackamas Workforce Partnership. I attended the meeting this morning. We went through our financial support, executive committee meetings. We basically talked about some policy updates that we had in our adult and dislocated worker eligibility, those revisions, and then the youth expansion program that we're going to be working on as a group, again, to get kids onto a pathway where they have some knowledge and an opportunity to decide and figure out what do they want to do for a job and how do we get them connected to the business community, as for example, in order to do that. One of the things that I wanted to also mention is because I work on community and economic and workforce development, I do get updates, and one of the things that I hope, colleagues, I can ask our PGA people, public and government, or PGR, public and government relations people, is to track a new bill that's being introduced, which is called the 21st Century Skills Acts. This has been endorsed nationally, and what it does is increase the availability of individual training accounts, which provides funding for workers and job seekers to pay for training expenses at state-designated eligible providers. It will also increase accessibility to career training services by giving recipients greater flexibility to use the funds with this individual training account. So what does this account cover? Funds can be used to pay for supported services like childcare and transportation, training-related expenses like books, tools, and certification of licensure exams. It also expands eligibility for skills-based training grants to include dislocated workers, individuals eligible for or receiving unemployment compensation, individuals with an income that is not more than 100% of their state's median income, and members of a household with an adjusted gross income of not more than $150,000. So I am going to be tracking this. It's called the 21st Century Skills Act. I think it's going to be important for us to see how it affects our state, how it affects our local workforce boards, and indeed how we can use some of these monies to actually get skill-based instruction to our youth, as well as to dislocated workers. And what's the definition of dislocated workers? Workers that have lost their job for whatever reason. You know, sometimes companies do layoffs. We are prepared in a very immediate way to work with those folks, help them with their skill sets, and help them find another way to employment. And the reason I'm talking about this is because I believe that this is one of the positive things we can do to get people on a pathway to prosperity so they can own homes. And speaking of housing, I'm just going to mention this very, very quickly and maybe talk a little bit more about it next week. But the Department of Housing and Urban Development has also just published a notice of funding opportunity. They have a pro-housing program, and they want to identify and remove barriers to affordable housing production. I don't know what that means yet. All I know that it sits there, and that we have really great staff working on all these issues. And I would suspect they're already looking at these opportunities to get funding from the federal government. So I'm hopeful that we can put a lot of these on our agenda, Gary, as we work with our legislators at the national level as well as the state level, and make sure we get funding for these kinds of opportunities for our citizens. And that's all I have. Yay.
Yay.
Okay.
Thank you, Commissioner Schrader. Commissioner Savas, you're next.
Yeah, thank you. This morning was the monthly JPAC, Joint Policy Advisory Committee on Transportation meeting in Portland, attended by Zoom this morning. Discussion around the soon-to-be approved Regional Transportation Plan that'll be done in probably November by JPAC. And also presentations on high-capacity transit proposals and funding. So I think I just want to just highlight for a moment the high-capacity transit for a little bit, and that is that one of the presentations I heard this morning was surrounding the project in particular on 82nd Avenue, where they want to put high-capacity transit. And Line 72 serves 82nd Avenue as the highest ridership transit line in the region. and TriMet's highest ridership line, of course. And the presentation I heard this morning, I just heard it kind of rang a bell. I heard this before, and I heard it about 15, 16 years ago when they were promoting the Green Line, the new light rail line that would go from Portland to the town center. And a lot of the very similar activities and justification it would serve. And so I mentioned, I go, you know, my comments were, did we put the Green Line in the wrong place? Because it sounds as though that you know, the argument's similar. And, you know, the problem with this investment is that it's, for me, it's parallel within blocks, within a few blocks, depending on where you are, with the Green Line, this 82nd Avenue. And it's hundreds of millions of dollars. And the matching funds is another hundreds of millions of dollars, which we don't really have here in the state. And instead of having a regionally balanced or striving for a regionally balanced transportation system, Clackamas County's on the short end of the stick when it comes to receiving any transit dollars to expand transit coverage. And instead, we are adding more transit to an area which is has a lot of transit today, which seems somewhat compounds the problem of the imbalance that we currently have, if you will, let alone, again, the scarce resources of dollars. So high-capacity transit, the other issue I have with high-capacity transit is, and I asked this question this morning, so Line 72 is very popular still after the Green Line's built. Some people thought that the Green Line the activity would go down because everyone would be jumping on light rail. And in fact, that's really not the case. It's still a strong line. And I argue that it's a strong line because it's very practical. It has stops that are close together. Local neighborhoods can simply access it. And that's why it's successful. So the high-capacity transit line proposal here would actually take away stops that's on 82nd Drive. And I would argue that would be less access, and perhaps it might actually diminish ridership. So as these high-capacity transit lines are considered around the region, and another one in Clackamas County, or could touch Clackamas County's on McLaughlin Boulevard, our issue there for 24 years, I first sat on the first Transportation Committee 24 years ago, we've been arguing for more access, more access, more access. So a proposal of high-capacity transit would mean less access, going the wrong direction. So I just want to point that out as just one of the things that we discussed this morning. With regard to tolling, I really appreciate Congresswoman Lori Chavez Dreamer for not just her latest response or message to Mr. Buttigieg, what's his position, director?
Yeah, he's the transportation
transportation director for
Secretary.
Secretary of Transportation in Washington D.C. To the federal government, and so not only do I appreciate that, but her consistent. Now I think this is the fourth or fifth action that she has taken, not just one, not two, not three, but this, again, 4 or 5 actions. So she's been outspoken about that and consistent. And I take that it means more than just, and I know her, and I knew her as the mayor of Happy Valley. I do know that she is sincerely and genuinely has concerns about this project. So I know, again, I respect her position. I respect her passion and also her tenacity on this. I just wish there were more decision makers, especially in Salem, that would step up to the plate and be as outspoken. There are a couple, but we need more than 2 votes or 1 vote or 3 votes in the state legislature. We got to realize that the state legislature made this happen. We heard this morning that, oh, it's been in the plans for 20 years or 23 years. You know, what's the big deal now? And I would argue, well, the devil's in the details, right? Congestion pricing, people didn't know what that was. Is there a congestion pricing project in this country we can look at today? The answer is no. So as they craft it, you know, when we learn more about it, we learn the financial impacts. we become, say, well, just because we thought it was a good idea, now that we actually can see what it is, maybe we need to make adjustments. If the governments are unwilling, or the decision makers are unwilling to make adjustments, then, maybe it's time to look at something different. All to say that I'm just very concerned that the silence coming from some state legislatures in position of power is deafening. And that bothers me quite a bit. It's quite convenient to just step aside and not be vocal about it. At the same token there is a legitimate argument, and I will work hard on this, and I just during, Commissioner Schull, just during your comments, I received another 2 messages, and they're transportation related, about this tolling issue. So I'm constantly getting flooded with it. And the question is this, I mentioned it last week, and Chair, I know you're going to schedule it soon, if not already, but I just want to renew my request for a conversation on what solutions we proffer in lieu of tolling for funding the I-205 project, the Sunrise project, future projects. The dollars are not going very far. The inflation is catching up with us. So we certainly have our source of gas tax and vehicle reg is not covering the cost, but also these capital projects are above and beyond. So we just need to have that discussion, at least so I can go to these tables and answer these questions that I've received just in the last 7 days, every day. What are we going to do? And I expect that might be a conversation at LOC at our annual conference. Not LOC, the AOC at our annual conference. So again, I want to renew that request, and I just hope that some of our key decision makers in Salem will be more vocal and stand up and stand out on this issue. It would be much appreciated.
Thank you, Commissioner Savas.
And Chair, I am going to go. I have an 11:30 appointment.
Okay.
So I'm going to take off, and thank you for
Yeah.
being gracious.
Oh, yes, you have a meeting, I know, in Portland, maybe 2 of them.
Yep.
Yes, thank you, Commissioner Schrader. The Board of County Commissioners went on a courthouse tour of our new courthouse this week, and we were able to go up to the 5th floor. We climbed up the temporary stairs, a little bit rickety, but we were there. We observed all 4 floors. We were five floors that are completed. There will be a 6th floor. We were told that it would be all encased by December, is that right? Waterproofed, encased, and they're really moving along. We were also told there'd be a total of about 360 different types of people, contractors working, subcontractors, with 57 different contractors. Because I asked, well, how many of the jobs are represented there? And they said, well, 57 contractors. I assume there's only 1 plumbing contractor and maybe only 1 drywall contractor. I'm not sure how that works. The project is on time and on budget, and that is tremendous for a project this large. I think we all enjoyed it, and boy, does it have a view. It has a 360 view, and it's going to be really something when it's done. As Commissioner Schull mentioned, please take the Measure 110 survey regarding the legalization of deadly drugs. It's important that we hear from our people in Clackamas County to know what we think. And regarding the tolling and ODOT's lack of ability to let us know what's going on with that, or even how much the tolls are, we've really reached a standstill with the Oregon Department of Transportation, and we've also reached a standstill with the Oregon Legislature, as Commissioner Savas has alluded to. And that's why I think it was very important for us to have an opportunity to give the opportunity to our citizens to vote on tolls. And that's why I'm supporting votebeforetolls.org, votebeforetolls.org. Download the petition. There's a little tab on the right side. You can download a single petition, or you can download a petition with 10 lines for your signature, and please do that moving forward. Yesterday, we had just the most wonderful time with our county employees, and it was the graduation of our Leadership Academy. They presented their projects in the morning, and how this works is, if you want to be part of the Leadership Academy, Gary, is it every year or every 2 years?
Every 2 years.
Every 2 years. You can sign up. And they take these employees and they put them through some leadership training. to be able to better their jobs, whatever you're doing, whatever you're working with, and I'm being very simplistic here, Gary, because I don't know exactly what was going on. And then you go from your training, and then you enter what they call cohorts, and it's groups of 4 different groups called a cohort, and you're assigned a particular topic or task involving county government or administration or outreach or whatever, and then you develop thoughts, programs, recommendations on how that is best administered. And it was very, very enlightening and fun. I attended that along with Commissioner Scholl yesterday morning. I took a lot of notes. I do have opinions on that. Not that my opinion matters much, but I do have opinions on it because I thought it was very interesting. We also attended an awards luncheon at noon to honor the people and their mentors. So every person who graduates from this Leadership Academy is assigned a mentor, and that is so important just to help you through the quagmire of county government. And I have to say, participating in those 2 events yesterday filled me up. I was so happy to be around the employees, delightful group of people, and I've always said we have some of the best employees around in Clackamas County, and I've always been very proud of the services they provide and their dedication to show up and do the jobs. Seeing no further business before this Board of County Commissioners, we are adjourned.